For any of you looking for the results, you can find them at dreamhack.binarybeast.com because I know a lot of you will be checking those results throughout the day. And oh my god, MorroW is back. We are going directly into Game 2. MorroW down 0-1, but let's see if he can make the comeback. Keep in mind, he is phenomenal at playing well under pressure in the North American Star League qualifiers. He lost the first game against OGS Nada, but then came back to win the next two, allowing him to advance to the finals in LA at the start of July. Let's see if he can do the same. Going into the next game, we have Braddock in the right position as the blue Terran. In the top, we have MorroW as the red Zerg.
If MorroW can beat Nada, he can beat anybody, that's for sure. Nada is such an amazing player, really renowned worldwide. And now we are seeing this game get underway. Every Zerg player we've seen so far gets the early scout, the direction with the Overlord. As you're going to see, MorroW will be able to go around and get good location on the natural of Braddock, and we'll be able to see, does he go for a fast command center? Maybe might be able to see the barracks as they're just beginning to build. We'll have to see how that does go on. And I'm interested to see, will Braddock be going for a fast expansion? Because I think that's where his strengths will rely. I don't really feel that he can play the same style he did before against MorroW, because MorroW is such a solid all-round player and can really deflect a lot of cheese, and that is really one of MorroW's strengths for certain.
Now, a couple of key mechanics on this map. This one neutral supply depot prevents early wall off. So, for instance, a Zerg who early expands can't get blocked and walled in as he could on other maps. We also see that there is the destructible debris making a little bit of a vulnerability for the third, but even so, we've seen players like Thorzin go for 3 ultra-fast command centers. And even if you do 3 eventual command centers, 3 relatively slow command centers, you still can do incredible amounts of barrack production. But it looks like Braddock, interestingly, going for a very fast gas. Generally, you see players go all macro, all expand, like MorroW getting himself a lot of drones, 16 drones, and then building a hatchery, and we'll be adding on more drones at home.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's going to add one more drone in, 16 supply, probably go up to 17, maybe 18, I suppose. It depends. Actually, he is going to go ahead and scout that the Terran player is here. Might just decide to build the Overlord at 17 rather than 18 and be greedy all the way. And we do have Braddock scouting in the right direction. Now, we'll see this hatchery first play, and we'll go over into the base and see that this spawning pool is quite late as well, 17 spawning pool.
Yeah, I mean, MorroW's really good at stretching himself thin. Again, we're seeing that extreme advantage of playing both Zerg versus Terran and Terran versus Zerg, but still, if you're a player like Braddock who knows how to put on a ton of aggression, you're going to be in great shape. Braddock now trying to maybe do another little wall off here at the front, has not really committed himself to doing much of anything at this point. We're seeing MorroW begin to see that, wow, all of these Marines are rallying straight to his hatchery, and as we've seen, even with one barracks, you can put on a little bit of bunker pressure.
And this is really nice by MorroW. Actually, look at that with the drone, not allowing the barracks to go down, denying any more Marines to back up with this pressure. Eventually, we'll go down. We have 2 SCVs outside the base of MorroW now to help try to get this bunker up, to create a bit of pressure, force MorroW to build lings and not drones.
So we see a very exact number of drones coming down, just 6, not too many, most of them back at home, have not begun mining gas quite yet. And look at this great control. Wow, not losing any drones. One very low on health, but MorroW is going to pull that back, and oh, he does end up losing 1 drone. But still, net gain for MorroW in that little early exchange, and it looks like Braddock was just using it as a setup for, again, a double Hellion opening.
Let's see how he's going to go into this. He should be going into a command center after this. There it is, actually being put down on the location here. Not on the natural, surprisingly, which is going to play a bit of mind games with MorroW, as he does have that Overlord in position that might get sniped here, should be able to get sniped here. Actually, does he have any Marines left over? He doesn't have any Marines, so he's going to have to build one to get that Overlord. Overlord will survive and go back, but he will see that there is no expansion on the natural, and will be like MorroW, making more defensive units, getting the Evo chamber a lot earlier, and as we can see, 2 Spine Crawlers being added on quite early on.
I really do not like this play by Braddock to take this early command center here. I mean, this is not a rich Vespene geyser, it's just a typical one, and there's fewer mineral patches. I mean, technically he could float it back, but I don't know why he just wouldn't build it there to begin with. These Hellions are going to be doing a great job of map control, and there is the most high-pitched Zelmaga watchtower you'll ever hear in your whole life, the Apollo. And will these Spine Crawlers end up finishing in time? It's going to be really close.
And he's trying to block with that 1 Queen, and they will get out. Actually, he's not going to take any hits, and will leave. But does see the 2 Spine Crawlers have been invested there, and at the same time is building a bunker on the front of his Natural here, will he be lifting up this? I don't think he will be lifting up this command center. I'm not sure. I don't think so. No, he's not. He's actually gone to this Vespene Geyser, which is, like you said, rather surprising.
So we do see that Xel'Naga Watchtower being locked down, controlled completely. Stim going down for Marines. Now he's moving the factory. This is a very fun way to do an early aggression push. You just add on that second barracks right to that reactor. Add a tech lab to this factory and begin producing tanks right away. Looks like Braddock will be doing the Marine part of that. Hasn't quite begun the tank portion. That expansion is up and running. But Braddock, again, is opening to a little bit of a bumpy start.
Indeed, and MorroW, kind of a little bit blind at the moment, still doesn't exactly know what Braddock is doing because this expansion is down at this different location. Even a Marine holding off, and MorroW tries to go in for the scout on the natural. I'm pretty sure that he can count. No, actually, no, he can't even see the mineral patches, so he has no idea what's going on. At the time, still just adding more drones. I'm sure that he must know that Braddock added on a command center from now. He's still not building any units at all. Adding on both Vespene Geysers, and he's going for that Spire play once again.
I mean, the real question is, will MorroW ever be able to get up this super high Mutalisk count? We've seen him get the Spire in these games. We've seen him get the 4 Geysers, but he hasn't really been able to bring the noise back to the Terran player. Braddock has consistently been the one applying the pressure. Now we see tanks in that siege mode finishing. Here's going to come a very fast push. Will he have enough? You know, a lot of Zergs have been going for these roach openings after they end up getting 3 bases, and that crushes early Marine tank pushes. But with these fast Spire plays, Marine tank pushes can be quite potent, and we've even seen MorroW lose to this almost exact push to Empire Koss in recent tournaments.
MorroW is getting supply blocked, actually. He was stuck at 6-8 for a very long time there. It does open it back up once again. A lot of links are in production now, and we'll have to see how he will use these. Moving out the spine crawls into better location with the creep. He will be able to see the structural rocks haven't been taken down by his 3rd base at all, but still very much in the dark, has no idea what's going on with this, and tanks now are being added, and it looks like Braddock is going to be pushing out with this. Stim is done, but only 2 tanks. This is going to be hitting before the Mutalisk come out, actually, before you can even get to that critical amount.
And this is such a strong push, especially if you keep these extra Hellions alive. They're going to go clean up these extra watchtowers, but if they loop back around, they can do a ton of damage. It looks like the spine crawlers, oh no, actually unburrowed. He will be able to maybe run up and do a little damage, but that is a lot of Zerglings from MorroW. But with the blue flame Hellion, or the red flame Hellions, excuse me, cleaning up those Zerglings, going to be able to do a good amount of damage. But you know what? Now that MorroW does have these Mutalisks out, he can relatively easily wait for a couple of extra Zerglings and overrun it with a huge amount of Mutaling.
That's really smart, actually. The way you say he's going to wait, as you can see, the spine crawlers are placed back to each other, actually, one place further back. And this is actually to build MorroW more time. He'll have to get rid of the spine crawler with the tanks, and then the next one, and then the next one, just allowing so much more time for MorroW to get more units out to deal with this. At the same time, is using Mutalisk, does go to that base, but sees 2 turrets there being forced out with the Mutalisk down. Just will wait for enough links, and then should be able to clean this out, and I think Braddock knows that and will be retreating here.
Braddock, this is actually, I think, the most brilliant move that Braddock has made this whole game. This retreat, so easy to just overcommit to an attack like this, and it looks like MorroW sees all the units in retreat. He's going to run up with the Zerglings. There's the Stim, 1 tank sieging up Hellions in very good position, but does he have enough units? Yes, indeed. He has plenty of Marines and tanks. A brilliant pullback by Braddock, waiting for those reinforcing units to join up, and now we see a big groundswell of units. 3rd base going down for Braddock. Will MorroW be able to get that momentum number of Mutalisks up in time?
I don't think so, Sean, because he hasn't even taken the Vespene Geyser on his 3rd base, and this is really uncharacteristic from MorroW here. That he's feeling a lot of pressure. He's not playing standard because you need that Geyser there. You can see that his mineral resources out of balance. He's even getting supply capped here. And this is not at all like him feeling a lot of pressure from this Russian Terran.
Yeah, I mean, MorroW, actually everyone in Groups A and B had the unfortunate pressure of having to play right after they woke up. 10 a.m. was the start of their games, as opposed to Groups C and D that start later on this afternoon. So that means that these players may not have fully warmed up yet. MorroW, you can see those fundamentals are so strong, though. Getting a good amount of Mutalisks, a good amount of Zerglings, having some great tactical decisions, but Braddock just seems to know exactly when and where to have all those tanks and Marines.
And we do have a drop coming in now into the main base, and there's nothing here defending. Where are the Mutalisks? They're out of position. They're in the middle of the map, so you might be able to get a lot of damage here. We'll have to see, not even pulling drones off.
Pulling some drones off of Braddock, able to do a good amount of damage, and per usual, this aggression seems like a bad idea for Terran, but always allows the Terran to move forward a little bit more aggressively, sacrificing a full 10 food worth of units just to advance forward with this army, and Braddock will elect to pull back. A little bit of a surprise move, but we do see that +1 attack is going down. If there's one advantage MorroW does have right now, it is upgrades.
Yeah, definitely. And now he's continuing with it, getting more into a comfort zone, getting that 4th base up, spreading the creep tumors, moving these overlords. And we see Mulus come in now, doing a lot of damage here, Sean.
It looks like they will not quite be able to finish off that one missile turret, but it will burn itself down. Not really almost any SCVs there at all. 68 to 41. Big contrast to the worker count we saw last game. Both players quite high up. And again, Terminus RE is supposed to be one of these maps that's a big macro map, a big macro style play, but we've seen players really exploit a lot of aggression just due to the fact that there's these extra rocks here, and because of the fact that the mains are fairly wide open to drops and air harass.
I think that Braddock needs to be starting to push out soon. We do have a lot of overlords moving down though, and it looks like a bit of a dummy. There is no units inside them at all. He doesn't even have the upgrade for it, and now he is moving into position. Will move out these Marines, kill these Marines, but at the same time, what is Braddock doing with his units? Still just on the natural here.
Wow, that's actually double smart by Braddock. MorroW moving over here, faking a drop tech, but it looks like Braddock just not falling for it, just continuing to make a lot of Marines. No Marauders quite yet. Going to wait until the much later stages of the game if any Ultras pop up, but MorroW now really hitting his stride. Has 16 Mutalisks, that is the money amount. There's the +2 flyer attack. We see Infestation Pit, 2nd Evo Chamber going on at the back. There's the +2 upgrade. A lot of ups coming up right now for MorroW. There's the Overlord swinging at the back. Will Braddock fall for it? Looks like no. This could have potentially been a very, very nice tactic for MorroW, but there he is breaking in, picking off one depot at the front.
Yeah, and I don't feel that Braddock has pressured MorroW enough. He started off really well, caused MorroW to make a lot of his mistakes on his own, but now that MorroW's just taken his base, he's got the Vespene geysers, so he has more gas income now, and because of that is resulting in a lot of upgrades being researched, as you can see in the production tab. Even Burrow being researched. So many upgrades, and now even the food count 195 to 135. Mulus taking down supply depots, really supply capping Braddock, and I think that he's lost it because he's lost position here as well. Moving out into this map through that choke into the open area is going to be very difficult to engage any Zerg play here.
Oh, and MorroW absolutely delighted to get a couple of free Marines. This is why the Mutalisk threat is so huge in the later stages of the game. Suddenly you can't leave a couple of units and a couple of turrets here and there. You have to have whole fleets of Marines there to deal with that Mutapack. We see more supply depots going down for Braddock. He's increasingly getting closer to that max point, but his upgrades again quite far behind his opponents. The Mutalisk now moving forward, trying to find some position. Looks like the push is going to begin before that burrow pops out. That's really what MorroW's waiting for. That's really what will delay the push. Oh, Mutalisk walking right into that pack, taking a ton of damage. There's the scan. They see everything that is out there to greet them, and MorroW right now has an amazingly wide cup of Ling Baneling.
Wow, that is so nice from MorroW. And the big problem here with Braddock, he doesn't have a Ghost Academy. It's going to be very hard to deal with these infestors. He just doesn't have the gas to do so. He needs it all in tanks, and one tank might get picked off. Oh, and forces a really big stim there. A bunch of units getting stim there. MorroW just moves back a little bit with his concave and just waiting ever so patiently here. Now infestors have been added into the army, and I think Braddock's going to be walking into a lot of danger here.
And here's the burrowed Banelings. It looks like Braddock has not quite noticed them yet. It looks like MorroW will be pulling everything back. That could be a potentially suspicious play right there from MorroW. Let's see if Braddock ends up falling for it. Wow, looks like MorroW is going to have great vision with these burrowed Banelings. Oh, and there's the scan. Cleaning up those burrowed Banelings. Very nice intuition by Braddock.
Very smart play here. Picking off a couple of Marines. Got to be careful with Mutalisk. Cannot take too much damage there. Greatest Spire is being researched. 11 Spine Crawl has been added across the map in key locations, key choke points in the middle of the map here.
So, I mean, Braddock is going to have to keep all those units very, very carefully spread. Wow, losing, it looks like 20 food worth of units, but we see that that was just a play to allow him to get a bunch more Corruptors out. MorroW now going to be just pulling back, spending all those minerals on Spine Crawlers to delay. And will Braddock have some sort of drop answer? We see a lot of Expos up on the left side of the map, but right now, ooh, a big fungal growth by MorroW allows him to pick off a couple of key units.
The bomb is ticking here for Braddock. As soon as these Broodlords morph, and these corruptors have been made. It's going to be so hard to deal with this. No Vikings at all in production, solely Marines as anti-air, and versus all these Lings and Banelings, they're not going to be good enough. And now the corruptors have popped. Is he going to be morphing into them, into those Broodlords soon?
Ooh, this is going to be a really, really close situation. See the Corruptors positioned up on the high ground, but look at the second natural from Braddock, totally mined out. The first natural has hardly anything mining at it. If we look at the income tab, we see almost no income from Braddock, but this is still a very, very big army. More spine crawlers going down, Brood Banelings pepper the landscape. He can do a ton of damage if Terran decides to get over eager and advance forward, buying himself all sorts of time to get those Brood Lords up.
Really nice drop inside the main of MorroW, causing a lot of damage, sniping a couple of Infestors, but the Broodlords are about to morph, and I really think this is going to be so hard. Even though he's got a command center trying to get that planetary fortress up there, I just don't think he can combat these Broodlords. It's going to be very difficult here, Sean.
Oh, Infestor's doing a bunch of damage in the main, cleaning it up, and now we have the Broodlords out. We have the level 3 carapace going down. What are the rest of the upgrades like? We do see a lot of Brood Lords advancing forward. Full 7 of them, and Braddock suddenly going to be in total retreat mode, trying to get this command center up, but there's MorroW, the Zerg that everyone knows and loves, managing to advance forward, clean that up only just now as that Viking production beginning.
And he has great map control, sees that there isn't another base being put up anywhere across the map for Braddock, even sees the Marines now taking out that one Ling, as that's the location that Braddock needs to take. And these Mutalisks, well, there's not too many left to try to kill this command center. Braddock is moving it towards that location. And a lot of borrowed Banelings here, Sean, but he does get a scan off to see them.
Incredible intuition by Braddock consistently throughout this game, but right now his army is just not designed to deal with this many Broodlords. He's going to have to pull back and make a defensive command center. Generally, you even want that command center along the direction of attack and morph it into Planetary Fortress, helps reinforce the tank line, but not in this circumstance. Braddock is going to have to pull back hard. Again, hardly any guys mining at his natural expansion, and there's the SCV train heading to that. I guess I'd call it the second base now from Braddock, because he really only has 2 mining, whereas MorroW has the whole left side of the map and is getting yet more Broodlords and Spine Crawlers.
And he still doesn't really have saturation on that base, as you mentioned earlier. On that second base, the natural, now the kind of the one first base that Braddock has, doesn't really have that many SCVs on there. And overall, I'm looking at the unit tab, 46 SCVs versus 65. 46 is not a large number by any means, and it's actually rather low for a 24-minute game here, and it's quite difficult. He's not going to have the resources to get these Vikings count out. I mean, we're at 6 now total, another 2 being added on, 8 eventually, another starport going down, but against all these Infestors, a couple of key fungal growths combined with the use of Corruptors, it's going to be so difficult to combat this army, and that's why Terran players need to start to incorporate Ghosts into their play to deal with the Infestors so that Vikings can have a lot easier time against this kind of composition.
And I mean, even if you can't get good EMPs off on those Infestors, it's still so great to do snipes on those Broodlords to see a drop going down. But MorroW's very smartly spending all of his extra resources on Spine Crawlers. I mean, the Spine Crawler count is huge. If only there was like a building count tab so we could point out, yeah, look at this. Let's just try to do a little count. We have like 14 here. We have a ton in the main. Many more will be selected soon. I mean, I cannot believe it looks like almost a full 48 Spine Crawlers on the map right now.
That's insane.
For MorroW, just getting so much defense set up. I mean, a lot of Zergs would just dump those minerals into more Zerglings or more hatcheries, but we're seeing MorroW very calmly let this game extend out.
And yeah, that's really exactly what is happening here, and there's pretty much nothing that either player can do. They don't really want to engage each other. MorroW doesn't want to go ahead and engage into the Terran player, especially with a ton of bunkers and siege tanks. But at the same time, Braddock needs to expand more. He needs to be pushing southwest here to try to grab these locations. He's just going to eventually mine out. You can see another command center being made here, but MorroW, very watchful on the map, sees all the locations that could be possibly taken. And the Viking count slowly but surely getting up there. But look at the upgrades. 0 upgrades currently on the Vikings, but we have +2 on the Corruptors. And they're going to be able to do a lot of damage to those Vikings quite quickly.
It looks like a couple of Marines going to deal with a handful of Mutalisks. The main armies have not really engaged, and it looks like MorroW deciding he didn't quite have enough Spine Crawlers. He's going to be adding on a lot more of those. Could even use them in the push. I just cannot believe how many Spine Crawlers he has established right now. And, you know, In a long-term game like this is actually a very smart tournament best-of-3 decision to make from MorroW. If I wear my opponent out in Game 2, I'm going to have an easier time in Game 3. This is a very crippling period for a player like Braddock in a spot like this. I mean, we see command centers trying to move out. We see Zerglings doing a good job surrounding those, doing that extra damage. They do have that Adrenal boost upgrade. We see that back here, Spawning Pool has all upgrades researched, but, you know, in a typical game, you know, where there's like a lot of back and forth action with a lot of Marines and tanks and micro going on, that can actually be quite rejuvenating for a player. He has a lot of excitement, there's a lot of adrenaline coursing through his veins, but right here, what really can you do? There's giant walls of spine crawlers, the Broodlord count is just climbing higher and higher and higher, and MorroW seems to have absolutely no incentive to actually attack you.
I know, and I think that there's kind of the best play MorroW could do right now is imagine just a Speedling run by right now into the main base. Like, how much damage would that do? It causes insane amounts of damage, and there's nothing Braddock could do because he's so stretched out across the map, because he's got so many tanks, he can't get these bases up. Be it there's a ton of Vikings and so on that are slowly clearing around the map, getting rid of Overlords, but I feel that MorroW's just in a better position. But I think as the game drags on and on and on, Terran's going to get to this point where he's going to have a 200 army eventually. He's going to have insane upgrades. You can see 3-3 Marines. And if he can continue to reinforce and bank up money, then he might be able to fight back into this game. But neither player really wanted to engage each other. So many Infestors here, so much. But we'll have to see, because there's no ghosts on in the game at the moment, Braddock has to be so careful with his Vikings. One mistake, one micro mistake, one hotkey mistake, and they all get fungal growth, and they all die. That's it, that's game. So he has to be so careful, especially because Burrow's being researched, that Infestors can move around underground, undetected. Like right now, where the Vikings are, can easily get fungal growth by moving Infestors. So that's what he's got to be super careful about here, Sean.
Handful of Banelings burrowing themselves along. It looks like Braddock going to get a nice spot on all those. Just going to continue to burrow Banelings around. But he will once again get scanned by that very, very nice intuition there by the Terran player. Braddock now moving across with 14 Vikings, 2 more joining, a full pack of 16. But he's got to be so careful. Look at this. MorroW cleverly throwing every small bit of unit, a couple of Mutalisks here, a couple of Zerglings and Banelings there. Looks like Braddock's getting a chance to advance. But what we've seen is that MorroW is replacing all those low food units with high-tech, gas-heavy units, all Infestors, all Broodlords, and the rest Corruptors. Now moving forward, we see the Corruptors starting to swing across the middle. And here are the Spine Crawlers advancing. Oh my god, MorroW will be using all the Spine Crawlers in this push.
Oh my god, he's going to go ahead and engage his Spine Crawl's taking a lot of damage. Broodlord's going in now with all these Corruptors. Can he get key fungal growths off on these Vikings here, Sean?
Oh my god, they're so clustered up, but it looks like some very nice micro by Braddock will be picking off these Corruptors. Oh no, a couple of Corruptors do get lost up at the front lines. The Broodlords are continuing to work their way forward. Nothing in their way. There's the fungal growth that he needed. We see a lot of damage going down on all those Vikings. The Corruptors cleaning them up. And these Broodlords are still alive, doing a ton of damage in the unit counting station. We see only 2 Vikings remain. 7 Broodlords, 10 Corruptors, 11 Infestors, and 20 more Corruptors incoming. Don't forget that Spine Crawlers do not show up on the unit tab, despite the fact that MorroW is using them in that way.
And wow, that engagement was so intense, so close. Like, the tanks were being targeted onto the Infestors, but luckily they had that key fungal growth, which allowed all them Vikings to go down. And now the supply count has dropped down to 144 Braddock. MorroW back up to 200 instantly, has so much money saved in the bank. He's invested that really well, and now will be gearing up for another attack very shortly. And before, it was almost a 200-200 battle. Now 200 versus 150. Going to be a lot different here. Using Queens to transfuse the Broodlords, excellent play here.
I mean, MorroW waited so long and is now using all these Spine Crawlers on the push, throwing down those Infested Terrans to absorb damage, so that way the Spine Crawlers can get burrowed up in time. The Broodlords continuing to make their way farther and farther forward. A handful of those Vikings do not quite manage to get fungal growth. Very nice micro by Braddock, managing to target fire those Broodlords instead. And there, oh, the tank's doing more damage to the Marines than the Marines are doing to anything else. And there, the corruption on all the tanks. MorroW is broken through the front lines. More Marines swinging from the side. But all the Spine Crawlers, all the Infestors, all the Corruptors cleaning up Braddock's army. Nothing else yet remains. And it looks like MorroW will pull back yet again, relying on a slow, steady push. Does not want to overcommit. He wants to have a boa constrictor style victory, Sean, and I think that is the correct way to play this out.
He's got so many corruptors, there's literally no way, even though Braddock is slowly upgrading the ship weapons, there's just no way that he can ever overcome these corruptors now. I guess the best idea he could possibly try to come back into is maybe if he added in a couple of Thors, because there's so many clustered corruptors, a couple of hits could really change the tide of the battle, but he just does not have the resources to do so. I mean, look at the unit tab, 40 SCVs at 35 minutes is really bad. And so he just doesn't have the economy to do so, and it looks like MorroW will finally go for this killing blow.
I mean, this is a virtually unstoppable force. A flying command center will not stop this attack, the Apollo.
There's no wait for this. It might take up a few hits from the corruptors and let the Viking do a little bit more damage, but I don't think he can stop this. Broodlord's coming into position, and he literally cannot stop these Broodlords. I think this is going to be the end of Braddock here. I can't see a way back for him now.
35-minute long game, slow and steady as they come. Neural Parasite tanks doing damage to their own Marines. Fungal growth on the Marines. That pack of Viking gets easily fungal growth. The ridiculous corruptor count of MorroW spreading forward, and there's the good game. MorroW brings the series to 1-1 with some of the most incredible play I've ever seen. You know, the funny thing about this is that in a typical Terran vs. Zerg, you see the Zerg with a hypermobile Zergling, Baneling, Muta army. Yeah. And what did MorroW finish with? The most immobile army that I've ever seen. I mean, Infestor, Corruptor, Broodlord, Spine Crawler. Yeah. Like 40 Spine Crawlers just slowly dragging their way across the map. Great. Yeah, thank you. That is a good Spine Crawler. I double that impression of the Colossus. I just do it faster. But I mean, great pushing by MorroW. And again, in terms of best of 3 logic, that is an exhausting game for Braddock to have played and a fairly easy one for MorroW to have pulled off.
And I think that that's going to benefit MorroW because MorroW plays so much, first of all. He plays a lot of ladder, he plays a lot of customs. He competes in every offline tournament almost that he can physically attend, where Braddock's kind of been in the dark. He's not really been moving out, moving to all these different tournaments. So therefore, MorroW's just going to have this stamina to push on and do games like that. He was probably thinking that exact kind of mental attitude through that game. Was like, all right, I'm just going to wear you out because you can't compete with me in a stamina war. And that was such a long game. And key for Braddock is where are the ghosts? Where are the ghosts? Especially when that huge fight went on. If those fungal growths hadn't have gone off, it could have changed. Braddock could have easily won that. But without the ghost, you can't really stop that. Even though his micro is insane, pulling Marines back, not getting really hit by fungal growths or Broodlords, using the Marines to kill the corruptors, just ghosts were absent from that and could have really changed that.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one thing that always happens when you overcommit to that mid-game army, committing so many resources to Marines and tanks and medevacs. He could have won if he just pushed a little more aggressively, a little faster, but the instant MorroW got all those Spine Crawlers and Broodlords up, it was lights out, and it was just a very slow, 100% guaranteed win there for MorroW. Very, very well played. And here